NEC Section 430.102 At-War mandates that a disconnecting means for motors and controllers must be located within sight of the controller location. This generally means that disconnect needs to be visible from the switchboard or control panel controlling the motor. However, NEC Section 430.102 A3 provides an exception for motors not visible from the controller location and only accessible via personnel lift. In such instances, the disconnecting means can be situated remotely, but it must be distinctly identified and easily accessible from the lift. Considering the scenario, the motor cannot be viewed from the platform where the disconnects reside, but access is available using a personnel lift. Consequently, the exception in NEC Section 430.102 A3 is applicable. The disconnect for the motor in question can be positioned remotely provided it meets specific criteria. Firstly, it must be clearly identified as the dedicated disconnecting means for that specific motor. Secondly, it needs to be readily accessible from the personnel lift utilized to reach the motor. Thirdly, labeling is essential, including motor horsepower, voltage, amperage, and equipment identification. As a recommendation to guarantee safety and adherence to regulations, installing the disconnecting means for the motor on the conveyor side accessible from the personnel lift is advisable. This enables technicians to effortlessly identify and access the disconnecting means before commencing motor maintenance. Let's delve deeper into the requirements outlined in NEC Section 430.102. This section pertains to the location of disconnecting means for motors. Subsection A specifically addresses the disconnecting means for motors and controllers. Paragraph 2 of subsection A stipulates that the disconnecting means must be in sight from the controller location. This requirement is designed to ensure that the person operating the disconnect can visually confirm that the motor is energized before working on it. The interpretation of this requirement is that the disconnecting means must be visible from the location where the motor is controlled. This typically means the switchboard or control panel that controls the motor. However, as previously mentioned, there is an exception to this rule. NEC Section 430.102 A3 provides an exception for motors that are not in sight from the controller location and are only accessible from a personnel lift. In these cases, the disconnecting means can be located at a remote location. However, there are still some requirements that must be met. Firstly, the disconnecting means must be clearly identified as the disconnecting means for that motor. This can be accomplished by labeling the disconnecting means with the motor's name, horsepower, voltage, and amperage. Secondly, the disconnecting means must be readily accessible from the personnel lift used to access the motor. This means that the disconnecting means must be located in a place where it can be easily reached from the lift. In the scenario described, the motor cannot be seen from the platform where the disconnects are located. However, it is accessible from a personnel lift. Therefore, the exception in NEC Section 430.102 A3 applies. This means that the disconnecting means for the motor in question can be located at a remote location, but it must meet the requirements outlined above. In addition to the requirements outlined in NEC Section 430.102, there are also some general safety considerations that should be taken into account when locating a disconnecting means for a motor. Firstly, the disconnecting means should be located in a place where it is protected from physical damage. Secondly, the disconnecting means should be located in a place where it is not exposed to moisture or other contaminants. Thirdly, the disconnecting means should be located in a place where it is easily accessible to qualified personnel. By following these guidelines, it is possible to ensure that the disconnecting means for a motor is located in a safe and compliant manner. To further elaborate on the labeling requirements, it is crucial to provide comprehensive information on the disconnecting means. Firstly, clearly indicate the motor's horsepower, which is a critical factor in determining the motor's power output and load capacity. Secondly, specify the voltage at which the motor operates, ensuring compatibility with the power supply. Thirdly, display the motor's amperage, representing the electrical current it draws during operation. Fourthly, include the equipment identification, which may involve a unique identifier or nameplate information to distinguish the motor from others. Furthermore, consider adding additional details such as the motor's serial number, manufacturer, and date of manufacture. This information can be invaluable for maintenance, troubleshooting, and replacement purposes. The label should be durable and weather-resistant to withstand harsh environmental conditions and maintain legibility over time. Consider using engraved metal or laminated labels for enhanced durability. The label should be securely attached to the disconnecting means in a prominent location where it is easily visible and readable. In addition to the labeling requirements, it is equally important to ensure that the disconnecting means is readily accessible from the personnel lift. This means that the disconnecting means should be located within easy reach of the lift platform without requiring any awkward or strenuous maneuvers. The disconnecting means should be mounted at a suitable height, taking into account the height of the lift platform and the average reach of technicians. The area around the disconnecting means should be clear of any obstructions such as pipes, conduit, or equipment to allow for easy access and operation. Adequate lighting should be provided in the vicinity of the disconnecting means to ensure visibility, especially during nighttime or low light conditions. Furthermore, it is crucial to regularly inspect and maintain the disconnecting means to ensure its proper functionality. This includes checking for any signs of damage, corrosion, or wear and tear. The disconnecting means should be tested periodically to verify that it is operating correctly and can effectively de-energize the motor. Any necessary repairs or replacements should be carried out promptly to prevent any safety hazards or operational disruptions. By adhering to these guidelines, you can ensure that the disconnecting means for the motor in question is located in a safe, compliant, and easily accessible manner, promoting the safety and efficiency of maintenance operations. Now, let's consider a few practical scenarios to illustrate the application of NEC Section 430.102 A3. Scenario 1 involves a large industrial facility with numerous overhead conveyor systems. One of the conveyor motors is located in a difficult-to-reach area, accessible only by a personnel lift. The motor's disconnect is located on a platform some distance away, obscured by other equipment and not visible from the motor's location. In this case, the exception in NEC Section 430.102 A3 applies. The disconnect can remain in its remote location, provided it is clearly labeled with the motor's information and readily accessible from the personnel lift. To improve safety, the facility could consider relocating the disconnect closer to the motor within easy reach of the lift platform. This would eliminate the need for technicians to travel to a separate location to de-energize the motor. Scenario 2 involves a wastewater treatment plant with several submersible pumps. One of the pumps is located in a deep well, accessible only by a crane or hoist. The pump's disconnect is located in a control panel some distance away, not visible from the pump's location. Again, the exception in NEC Section 430.102 A3 applies. The disconnect can remain in its remote location, provided it is clearly labeled with the pump's information and readily accessible from the crane or hoist. To further enhance safety, the plant could consider installing a local disconnect near the pump within easy reach of the crane or hoist. This would allow technicians to quickly de-energize the pump in case of an emergency. Scenario 3 involves a commercial building with a rooftop HVAC unit. The HVAC unit is located in a fenced-in area, accessible only by a ladder or stairs. The unit's disconnect is located in a service panel inside the building, not visible from the unit's location. In this case, the exception in NEC Section 430.102 A3 does not apply, as the HVAC unit is not accessible solely by a personnel lift. The disconnect must be located within sight of the HVAC unit as required by NEC Section 430.102 A4. The building owner would need to relocate the disconnect to a location within sight of the HVAC unit, such as on the roof near the unit. These scenarios demonstrate the importance of understanding the specific requirements of NEC Section 430.102 and applying them correctly to different situations. By carefully considering the location of the motor, the accessibility of the motor, and the location of the disconnect, it is possible to ensure that the disconnecting means is located in a safe and compliant manner. In addition to the above scenarios, it is important to consider the potential for future changes or modifications to the electrical system. For example, if a new piece of equipment is added that obstructs the view of the disconnect, it may be necessary to relocate the disconnect to comply with NEC section 430.102. Similarly, if the access to the motor is changed, such as by adding a new platform or walkway, it may be necessary to relocate the disconnect to ensure that it is readily accessible. It is also important to consider the training and qualifications of the personnel who will be performing maintenance on the motor. Only qualified personnel should be allowed to work on electrical equipment, and they should be properly trained in the safe operation of the disconnecting means. In summary, locating a disconnecting means for a motor requires careful consideration of several factors, including the requirements of NEC section 430.102, the specific characteristics of the installation, and the training and qualifications of the personnel who will be performing maintenance on the motor. By following these guidelines, it is possible to ensure that the disconnecting means is located in a safe and compliant manner, protecting the safety of workers and preventing electrical hazards. Let's further discuss the concept of readily accessible as it relates to the location of the disconnecting means. According to the NEC, readily accessible means capable of being reached quickly for operation, renewal, or inspections without requiring those to whom ready access is requisite to climb over or remove obstacles or to resort to portable ladders, and so forth. This definition emphasizes the importance of ensuring that the disconnecting means can be easily reached without the need for any special tools, equipment, or procedures. In the context of a personnel lift, readily accessible means that the disconnecting means should be located within easy reach of the lift platform without requiring the technician to strain, stretch, or contort their body in any way. The disconnecting means should be mounted at a suitable height, taking into account the height of the lift platform and the average reach of technicians. The area around the disconnecting means should be clear of any obstructions, such as pipes, conduit, or equipment, to allow for easy access and operation. Adequate lighting should be provided in the vicinity of the disconnecting means to ensure visibility, especially during nighttime or low light conditions. In addition to the physical accessibility of the disconnecting means, it is also important to consider its operational accessibility. The disconnecting means should be designed in such a way that it can be easily operated by technicians wearing gloves or other personal protective equipment. The disconnecting means should be clearly labeled with instructions on how to operate it safely and effectively. The disconnecting means should be regularly inspected and maintained to ensure that it is in good working order and can be operated reliably. By ensuring that the disconnecting means is both physically and operationally accessible, you can significantly reduce the risk of accidents and injuries during maintenance operations. Furthermore, it is important to consider the potential for human error when locating and operating the disconnecting means. Technicians may be working under pressure, in difficult conditions, or with limited visibility. Therefore, it is crucial to make the disconnecting means as intuitive and foolproof as possible. The disconnecting means should be clearly labeled with the motor's information, including its horsepower, voltage, and amperage. The disconnecting means should be located in a consistent and predictable location, so that technicians can easily find it without having to search or guess. The disconnecting means should be designed with safety features such as lockout/tagout mechanisms to prevent accidental energization of the motor. By taking these factors into account, you can minimize the risk of human error and ensure that the disconnecting means is operated safely and effectively. In conclusion, locating a disconnecting means for a motor is a complex task that requires careful consideration of several factors, including the requirements of NEC section 430.102, the specific characteristics of the installation, the accessibility of the disconnecting means, and the potential for human error. By following these guidelines, it is possible to ensure that the disconnecting means is located in a safe and compliant manner, protecting the safety of workers and preventing electrical hazards.